Hello, CABA. This is a big product, so I'm going to give you guys a big intro. I'm Derek Coburn with LumenCache. And what I'd like to start off with is kind of making you think about the control networks that are in your cars, right? I mean, these things control everything, the gauges, the instrumentation, the transmission, the engines. And it's got a really cool device. It's an onboard diagnostics port. Every car has one. And you can plug in a little box into that thing and immediately get all access to your car via your cell phone. So now imagine if we had an onboard diagnostics port for our house or our apartment, where you just plug in a gateway and instantly you have access to all of your lights and all of your smart home devices through one port. Right? Now this port is not going to be wireless. Wireless is a really weak foundation, unfortunately, for all of these smart home devices. But because our infrastructure is 120 years old and there's all this technical debt that we have, we continue to put in this old type of infrastructure. And have you seen the number of IoT protocols that we have out there, right? I mean, the IoT platform landscape is very confusing and getting worse every day. So if you're a builder and you're faced with looking at that, you're going to say, oh, screw it, I'm just going to stick with what's simple and what works, right? And so essentially they leave most smart home applications as an aftermarket, right? Well, I mean, could you imagine having to add power windows to your car afterwards as an aftermarket add-on? Again, it's not very effective. So the biggest thing that LumenCache solved is we make the new technology attractive to builders. That means that we stop installing the old infrastructure and start putting in new infrastructure. So what is LumenCache? Well, LumenCache is essentially a wired infrastructure for low-power devices. It's installed during new construction. And what it handles is essentially what's most important to every single device, and that is the communications, energy management, and also not having to replace batteries anymore. I mean, just think of that one feature alone. So, you know, it's a platform that essentially allows multiple power sources also, because we know the power source is changing in the world. So utility grid, battery, DC, solar, all those things can be combined together. But the best part is its modular design. And this allows any partner to create products and applications on the backplane. And essentially the backplane handles the auto discovery, the communication and energy management, that critical security, cybersecurity features that are important to everything. So, and you can do this one port at a time. Now that means that a builder can put in inexpensive LED cards, and then later on, a property manager can pop in a Li-Fi card or a PoE card, or whatever the new standard of PoE that's going to be in the future. So essentially LumenCache is USB for homes and buildings. If you want to think of it that way, it's a very thin layer that sits underneath everything else. Ken Wax, who's in the audience, in 2012, I asked him a question at my first CABA experience, and I said, you know, Ken, what's going to be the one protocol that we all use in the future? And I knew the answer. He said, no one. So I think what's important is that what we found is the one common denominator that binds all of us here at CABA together. And you know, that product now makes a lot of sense when it didn't make sense in 2012. Out of time here, but essentially many of you have already chosen to make your products available on LumenCache. And so we're looking to see as many more product manufacturers as we can to join on this platform. Thanks, I'm Derek with LumenCache.
Thanks, Derek. So this is more than a concept. You're in market, you're selling product. Where are you seeing the...
2011, we created the first prototype proof of concept. We've sold just about $1 million of cherry-picked sites. Yeah, so there's about 5,000 drivers that are already in service for 3 years, working beautifully, continuing. Yep.
Where are you seeing the biggest traction geographically and in building structure?
Well, I've spent the last 16 months in China, and we've been able to essentially been identified as one of the things that can solve China's goals of 2020, having a 20% reduction in energy across all their buildings. And so, you know, nice thing there is they can make a decision and it just happens. But here, you know, market forces. And so because we chose not to be a specific application, instead we want to allow all of you to create the applications, right? So Matt's application that he talked about earlier, with many slides, I might add, I mean, that's actually the end goal of LumenCache, the idea that you can have a smart building, but if you don't have that nice, reliable infrastructure of sensors and the ability for people to solve the hardware onboarding, you're never going to get to the end goal.
Is there a question? Oh, sorry. Okay, yeah.
So I think what you said is the product a backplane and then as customers add more devices, they come back to you for more modules?
Think of it as a PoE switch, right? Power over Ethernet switch, but every single port can change the type of PoE it is. So you could pop in a PoE card in one port, or you could pop in a constant current LED driver that's less expensive, or some new device that's never been developed. We do the same thing on the power input side, so we can handle any type of new energy or new energy standards. It essentially makes a hardware agnostic and technology agnostic platform. That's what the patent's around.
Thanks, Derek.
Thank you, Derek.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.